free from the mainstream, the studio machine. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. Going all the way. Indie Film Nation. You know it's gotta be Indie Film Nation.
Getting the actors involved, I think half of any film is the quality of your actors. You know, you can have a really good script, but if the actors aren't good enough, then it'll show. Sort of the acting, the casting process, sort of two-pronged. There's one key young boy, young Rowan in the film, who was, within the film is like a sort of 14-year-old boy. We wanted an unknown actor for that. So to find him, we set about just going, me and Mac, director, literally did our own workshops. We went to 2 or 3 young acting schools in the Swansea area through an agent we knew called Mark Germain, where literally young kids of that age, Welsh specifically because it's a Welsh role, they do amateur dramatics and they get to know acting for the first time. And we did castings at those. So through that we found Stefan Thomas, who played the young Rowan. And initially, on top of that, there are 2 significant roles for older actors, which is the role of Gwaine, which ended up being played by Philip Maddock, and the role of adult Rowan, which ended up being played by Robert Gwyn-Davin. And those were cast very much in a more conventional way of, we had a casting director and he approached certain agents about certain people we thought would be right. Now, funny story, initially, the role of Gwaine was to be played by John Rhys-Davies, very well known for playing Gimli in Lord of the Rings and Salah in the Indiana Jones films. And he was going to do it, he was on board, we'd met him, and very unfortunately, about 10 days before the shoot, we got the news that he was contractually obliged to have to go back to America and shoot pickups for a feature film which he'd recently finished, which came out of the blue. So he was unable to do our film and had to fly back. So with 10 days before the film, we're left with no real lead actor.
The overall goal that I wanted for Hawk was for it to be a large-scale short film, so embodying lots of stuff that you would have in a feature film. So therefore, we as emerging filmmakers would have the chance to experience and learn and make lots of mistakes trying to emulate those requirements. Like I've said before, the orchestra, how do you do that? Okay, you fly over to Bratislava for one day, you get there in the morning, you record 40 people in the afternoon, and you come back in the evenings. You don't even stay in a hotel, you just got time for one beer. So, you know, but we figured out that it was actually achievable. As much as when you start off, it feels like it's way grander than it is. And I wanted it to kind of have a really great website, do the trailers, do the marketing, have a poster, you know, do the photo sessions with the actors, have a making of, and it to be an educational example for other emerging filmmakers coming through to say, well, you know what, we could probably pull off some high production standards ourselves. Okay, we'll make a few mistakes, but at least we could do it. So that was really the most important thing for me, that the project would be for other filmmakers. As far as getting into other festivals, I didn't really think about that. What I was interested in is potentially theatrically releasing a short film, because that's something that happened maybe when my father was a kid. You know, he used to go to the cinema, watch a short film, then watch 2 feature films. You know, he'd have the B movie and then the main feature. So that doesn't really happen that often. So I want to see if that was possible. We managed to do that with Hawk in cinemas in Wales, and it actually screened in front of Harry Potter in a few cinemas in North Wales, and to a paying public. People paid for their cinema tickets and they went and saw our film. And that also helped us because it meant we qualified for the tax credit, which means you're able to apply to get funds back that you spent in the UK, so which meant we monetized our short film. So it was an avenue of monetizing it, hence like releasing the soundtrack's on iTunes and Amazon. So, you know, for twice a year we'll get a check for that for the rest of the film's life. So it was those things that were really important tools that were going to help us as filmmakers, and that was what was important to me, to learn all of those things. The festivals would be a great luxury if that came off.
So we went back to the same agency, John Rhys-Davies' agency, and we said who's available, and they recommended Philip Maddock, who was on the same agency. So we went to see Philip. This is literally about 5 days to go before we're supposed to be shooting. He really liked the script. He had the heritage, the classically trained acting past which we wanted, and that gravitas, and it was just perfect, really. And it was just, at that point, it was our only option. But it turned out to be, I think, one of the best things about the film is Philip's performance. So yeah, it was weird how it worked out, but it worked out for the best.
Puig was ashamed and offered to pay for the animal he had killed. But there was only one way to repay that debt.
I think, like, moving on from Hawk as a story, the more I thought about it, because I mean the actual hawk that we used is a Harris hawk, and it's kind of natively from South America. So having it, if you like, in a realistic Wales is just unreal unless somebody brought it over from that country of that time. So we had the get out clause in Hawk of being a fantasy film, so we could have any creature wherever we liked, and its heritage didn't matter because we were just in this kind of mythic past, and it gave us a lot of creative freedom as well as convenient practical freedom as far as storytelling was concerned. So that was a really interesting aspect. But moving on from that, I've kind of developing an idea which some of us are calling Hawk the feature, but it won't really be a direct kind of transition from Hawk. It'll be inspired by, it'll have the mood, it'll have maybe one or two of the characters. Probably won't actually have a hawk in it. I'm thinking of transposing it for a golden eagle, but I'm not calling it eagle. And it may be set at the backdrop of the Napoleonic War. So as opposed to taking a fantastical side of it, I might be taking it more down a realistic, historic route, but taking the epicness and the mood of Hawk and utilising that for this new story.
Adult Rowan, again, there's a story behind that one. We initially cast a guy called Julian Lewis-Jones, who has had small parts in films like Invictus, and again he was going to do it, but just before the shoot he got a job in a play in Cardiff, and the logistics meant that contractually he had to be in Cardiff every night, so he would have had to have shot during the day up in North Wales, the length of the country. He'd have to travel down and be in this play, and after talking about it logistically, we just realised it just wasn't going to work out. There were a million and one reasons why we just thought he'd be tired, it just wouldn't work out for either of us. So then Julian, knowing that he was going to step away from the film, recommended someone else, Robert Gwyndavan, who was an acting friend of his, who'd been in films like First Night, and we met Robert again. This is in the last 10 days before the shoot, where everything kind of changed and got thrown up in the air. And then we met Robert, and we thought he was perfect. And really, jammily, he was quite a good likeness for our younger actor, Stefan Thomas. So they sort of really by just a fluke, really, we managed to find an actor who looked like an older version of the kid we'd already cast.
The key thing that we've kind of learned with the funding aspect of it is we had a number of partners that made up the film. So there was, if you like, there was our parents put in a little bit of money. There's not much as far as in the terms of the percentage of the budget, but it helped us move along. We individually put money into the project in the initial stages of getting it off the ground, and then we had a series of exec producers who wrote like a check each, and each contribution, you're obviously building up the budget and you're gathering as much money as you can in order to make the project and realise it. So it's always good, if possible, to intend to recoup the funds for your investors, because you want to have these relationships for the rest of your filmmaking career. You don't want to just take $5,000 off someone and whatever happens, at least I've got my money and I don't care whether they don't get their money or not. You need to kind of respect the fact that they've written a check for you in order to enable you to make your idea realised. and you need to kind of honour that. So a good way to do that is what we intend to do with our project is once we recoup various chunks of the funds as they come in from the tax credit, from the soundtrack, from maybe the sale of the TV licensing for the UK or America, and downloads on iTunes or the internet. As soon as various stages are recouped for the budget, we will ultimately write a check for the people that invested in the film. So at some point in the future, the film will be completely recouped, and everybody who invested in it will have had their money back. And from that point on, the film's purely in profit. And films go on and have a life. You know, they exist for 50 years and more. You know, as long as people want to watch films will all have a life, no matter how old they are. And if they have that life, then therefore there's some form of recoupment that can be made from them.
Coming up in the next few months, we're going to be releasing a Blu-ray, and we're going to have a video on demand, so people can come on our site and just watch the film there and then for like something nominal like 99p. They can watch that anywhere in the world. So there'll be two ways you can get the Blu-ray, which has obviously got all the extras, high definition. We've got a 40-minute making of on there, all the trailers, and there's 80 minutes of production diaries available online, so you can watch the history of how this film was made. So all that'll be on the one Blu-ray. You can also buy the soundtrack. It's available on iTunes, Amazon, Play, HMV, all those sites. You can buy the whole score, which got fantastic reviews done by Stuart Hancock. And we released, I think it's got to be the first time a short film's had its soundtrack released, which is pretty special. So yeah, hawkthemovie.com.
I think it's vitally important to honour the relationships you have with your investors, and this is on any project that you work on. You need to be endeavouring to try and recoup their money. And on a short film, you can't guarantee it, because at the end of the day, it's a short film. But if you have an opportunity to do it, then do it, because as you emerge and climb through the ranks as a filmmaker, they'll stay with you because you've delivered to them. So it's a good thing to do, is to honour any kind of investment that's been presented to you.
One moment then, you looked like your mother. She liked my stories too. She loved all the old tales. And she believed in them. This is all my land. Everything that runs in it belongs to me. That white stag was not yours to hunt. And Puig was ashamed and offered to pay for the animal he had killed. But there was only one way to repay that debt.